right, I think we are good to go. We are live. Welcome back, everybody. It's episode 32, Hero Labs Live. And we have our special guest today, Scott Melker. Welcome.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Gonna just double check, get through our audio settings here, make sure everything is smooth. And we've got a few people piling into the chat here. Welcome, guys. How's it going? And yes, okay. So we're getting word from TradingView that we are good to go. Excellent. Good to have you.
Yeah, man. It's great to be here. I'm glad you guys finally invited me. I've been having hero FOMO. When are they going to ask? What are they going to ask?
It's part of the brand. Yeah, it's built in, and we've been hyping it for a week now. Really good to see you on here. And I have a few things I'd like to kind of kick off with. I think it's good to got random. Sorry, guys. The chat over at TradingView, they're just talking about other streams. Like, sorry, we're having trouble going live. What's up, Seaman? We got Bitty Bird. We got 20 guys in the YouTube 22, so we're gonna give it a sec. Hold on a second. That was a huge cup of coffee. Is that coffee you got here midday, Scott?
Yes. Is it big enough for you?
The camera. Yeah, I was like, is that a camera trick or is that thing actually a liter?
It's a little bit of both. It's probably 75% the size of my head.
Oh, Jesus. That thing looks beautiful.
Small head, large cup. It's a optical illusion.
There you go. So, yeah, we're going to start off. One of the things we talked about pre-stream, like I don't want to turn this into like sort of your standard, kind of interview. How'd you get into crypto? All that stuff. I feel like most people that want to know that stuff know that. And today we're going to kind of kick it pretty casually, focus on the charts. We've got Bitcoin squeezing up over the weekend and some of the other majors. And generally speaking, you and I are kind of on the same page in that altcoins look pretty risky right now, maybe a little weak.
Yeah, I think it's been that way now for a while. I think we had a pretty clear top. It's been basically weeks of chop and forcing trades. And that said, I don't see any particular downside or problem on any larger time frames. It just all kind of looks like the expected retracement after a FOMO run of sorts. I think that a lot of people panic and have this instinct to compare where they are now versus where they were at the all-time high, as opposed to where they were maybe 6 months ago. And if you kind of zoom out and think, holy shit, I'm up 2-3 times, instead of being like, I'm down 30%, because that's not really the reality. So yeah, I mean, we've all seen some drawdown here, but it almost looks more like a longer term buying opportunity, whether it drops a bit more or not, than it does like a reason to panic.
Yeah, exactly. And I think to that extent, on that note, let's actually just talk a bit about Bitcoin. You know what? I got this one chart. I'm not going to pull that one up just yet because it's already inked up and it looks really bearish. So I'm going to give it a more organic Bitcoin chart here to start with, so that it's not too biased. Because this is really what I see right now. And as we flip over here, I do want to step back, and we got tons of stuff to talk about today, guys. We're going to dive into NFTs, and we're going to be, diving into a few charts and a few sort of higher time frame macro theories that I've got cooking. But for now, that's a really important point you made about perspective, because I've done really well this year. Like, my portfolio's doing great. It's flush, it's colorful, and it has taken, I'm not really holding altcoins. I was really light on my feet on purpose through this. But it has taken, a little bit of a hit through the last couple of weeks. And I think you're absolutely right. It's important not to look at that and think, wow, I've lost. And if anything, now you're chasing or you're getting stressed out. So this is what I see on Bitcoin is on the highest time frame, right? We are in sort of a weekly uptrend. There's just no doubt about it. We got the high, you get the lower, or the higher low, higher high. We're putting in a higher low right now. And that's why this level to me is so critical, because if we lose this, then the downtrend on the daily has continued and started, and then the weekly is going to flip as well, which, according to everything I'm seeing in the world around Bitcoin and stuff, I think that seems unlikely. But I'm not one to count it out, and certainly not just blindly holding long, because if we do come down into this, and I don't know how much of my TA you've looked at, but I'm all about these fibs. And so these kinds of retraces they're just front and center. They happen all the time. And right when,
Yep.
and once you get down there, of course, then the 2K charts start coming out and you get the bearish divergences and all this, or the bullish divergences working and everything. And suddenly this was that 7K everyone was looking for like 2 months ago, and we're off to the races. So this is not out of the question for me, but we are at a very pivotal little sandwich right now. And this is going to be a very important week. I mean, it seems like every week there's something important. I just tell my girlfriend, she's like, when are you done work? I'm like, babe, it's something very like critical right now. And I swear I'm telling her that like every other week, but this time I mean it. If we break above here, we've got a new little daily structure to work with. If we roll over here, oof. So big week. Now, flipping back to our shot here, I want to just touch base a little bit. We've got a few viewers here who may not know anything about you. So let's see if we can we'll get a couple minutes and just tell us a little bit about yourself as we welcome you onto the stream here.
Sure. I was the first American to walk on the moon. No, that's not true.
I read that.
So my my background is actually in DJing and music producing. So I had a childhood with pretty good financial literacy. I went to the University of Pennsylvania, where obviously I had quite a bit of exposure to markets, and that's where I first saw charts and things like that. And this is in the late 90s, but I decided to pursue a DJing career and music career instead of heading towards Wall Street. So I with a whole lot of twists and turns and random jobs and projects and companies I started and failed at or succeeded at throughout the last 20 years, at the core was always doing music. But in 2015, my daughter was born, and that's when I really had to pack it in and stop traveling. And also, I mean, to be quite honest, I was just like the oldest dude at the party.
Yeah.
Every time it was like, Matthew McConaughey and Dazed and Confused. I get older, they stay the same age. That was DJing for me. So when I started showing up at fraternity parties as the dude old enough to be the dad, it was a pretty bad look, even though I was working. So I packed it in and started focusing more on trading and markets, and then kind of fell in love with crypto in late 2016, early 2017, and it's been a great ride since then. A lot of fun, and something that I came as a trader and sort of to make money, and then I backed into the passion for actually the use case and the importance of it. Now I've gone I'm teetering on the maximalist cliff, I think is fair to say. So dangerous waters below.
Yeah, I think it's easy to fall in love with crypto if you get in. In retrospect, around early 2017 was a really hot, even late 2016. That's actually around when I got in, around May 2017. And I mean, that was a wild year. So similar story to that. I've got a little background in education. I was a teacher for a little while, half-time education the last couple of years. And now I'm on full unpaid leave, just working this, basically not looking back right now and enjoying it. So
what kind of teaching were you doing?
I was teaching mostly in behavior, like in special education. So if you get the most angry, defiant, evil, quote unquote evil, they weren't evil, but children, and put them in my class and set them straight. So I had a background in psychology.
One of my earliest jobs, a summer job, right when I started college, was at a school in my hometown that was similar. So I basically, my seventh grade math teacher asked me to come and work with him in his classroom. And it was, the pregnant girls, behavioral problems, some kids on the spectrum, things like that. So I spent an entire summer. I may have actually been in high school. I was in high school. I spent an entire summer doing that. And it gives you, I think, a great perspective on behavior in general, but how lucky you are, and sort of, it minimizes your own problems, I think, to a certain degree.
Absolutely. Yeah. I dealt with a lot of trauma. And as far as, and I played poker at the time too, as kind of my nightlife was managing risk through pokers at the table there. So, as far as like equipping going forward, I mean, think about the patience. Oh my God. I've translated well into trading with just psychology and patience and behavior stuff, which actually brings me to what we talked a little bit before as well. Your edge in the market, what you see is the most important thing. One of the things we're trying to do here at Hxro Labs is really bring together minds and ideas and concepts that people can watch this for an hour and say, after this hour, I spent my time well. I am now more equipped to go into the market with confidence, make money, whatever I can do. Never really a big believer in the idea of signals and, buy Bitcoin at 10.8, sell it at 11.2, you'll make money. Maybe you will, but you may wake up tomorrow and blow your whole stack because you haven't set out a process that you can work from and a plan. So stepping into that kind of realm, like what would you say to somebody if they said, I'm assuming, it's assumed at this point that you're a successful trader. What do you think feeds your success the most as a trader if you had to pick one or two things?
I'm a successful trader now, but I was hot steaming garbage for most of my career and, making the same mistakes that everyone did, gambling, poor position sizing, no stop losses, FOMOing in and out. Basically every mistake that you could possibly make, they could have written a textbook about me. So I think at a certain point you decide not to be a spaz and that you hate losing money and you turn it around. Most people probably quit before that point because, it's too much abuse and pain emotionally and financially. And I think that, I'm one of the few who somehow made it through that and turned it profitable. But I spent way too long being a complete shit trader, to be honest with you, Yeah. And I think most people, some of who want to talk about edge is blowing up an account once or twice and learning from it. I think that's one of the huge edges in the market, kind of like you can't trust a skinny chef. You can't trust a trader who hasn't blown up their account a few times, but
or claims
I think
that
probably, I think most people who come probably on these streams, when you talk about edge, you talk about like a system or something you see on a chart or an indicator that you use or a technique. And I think all of that is basically meaningless versus trader psychology and emotion, which we touched on before. There are literally 1,000 systems, techniques, and ways to find entries, to read a chart, to draw a line, to decide what you personally believe is important. The only thing that really matters is sticking to one and utilizing it as a risk management tool, in my opinion. So I don't think a chart tells me anything except for where people are fearful and greedy and what's happening in between. I don't think it predicts the future. I don't think it's a crystal ball. I don't think it matters which technique it uses. I think it just gives you a reason in your own mind to set a stop loss and size your position correctly. And then the real edge comes with not changing that plan once you've executed the trade, right? It's the ability to step back and let it happen without deciding that you're a genius and that you can outthink your former self in the heat of the moment, because you won't, right? Your mind is clear when you take a trade, and your mind is a muddled emotional mess when you're watching price action go against you.
Yeah, you are literally highlighting like every mistake that I made as an early trader as well, right? You get into a position, it starts going your way, and maybe add a little more, or it goes against you, so you cut it before your stop loss, and then after it doesn't hit your stop loss, you're like, oh wait, invalidation level was correct. Those kinds of mistakes, front and center. So one of the things, if someone was to ask me, what changed for you when I went from not profitable to profitable? Now, I was very fortunate, and as I imagine you were as well. In 2017, the market was very forgiving, right? It wasn't easy by any stretch of the means, right? There was mid-July and the BCH fork, and everyone's like, oh, the blockchain's going to die and it's just going to go to hell. And the China ban in September 4th, right? There was a lot of reasons to get screwed over there, and some altcoins obviously that exited. So, but it was a very forgiving market. I mean, it went up 2,000%, and especially through December, you could, buy something, get on a flight, get off the flight, sell it for 10x. But through that, and then of course through 2018, 2019, I think a lot of people realized, holy shit, I need to get my shit together, like if I want to be a consistently profitable trader. And one of the main things that changed it for me was tracking, journaling, right? All those mistakes you talked about is just writing them down, because if you don't have that data, then you can't really establish either a baseline for where you started, where you're at, and then track your growth. And
totally agree.
Checklist tracking your specific mistakes. So if I know that I size up too much when X, then I need to check myself every time I make that mistake, and then maybe it's like, oh, I made that same mistake 5 times. Okay, I'm going to stop trading for a bit or whatever. So that I'm right there with you. I think TA is really nice for giving reasons to take action in the market. But at the end of the day, if you're not managing your back end with risk management, sizing, it's going to be really hard to grow your account over time.
I'm pretty convinced that you could throw darts for entries if you properly place a stop loss based on wherever that dart hits, and then back calculate your position size correctly from that stop loss. I don't think that the chart is helping you that much. Like I said, it just gives you a reason for you to personally believe that this is the right place to take. And of course, a chart gives you information on where there's likely liquidity. Hopefully it puts you on side with the bigger players by finding an area that they might be pushing price to, exact as much pain as humanly possible on the likes of us. But at the end of the day, it's really about risk management completely.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really have one without the other. Now, I personally would argue that the TA that we do over here, I feel like we can do better than darts. I honestly do. But I get the sentiment, which is, just get in the market.
I wouldn't do TA if I didn't believe that as well, obviously. Like, I believe that it's helpful, but my point being is that if you want to stress as a new trader which one you should focus on, getting your risk management and plan together is 10 times as important as figuring out which indicator or way that you're going to approach your trades, in my opinion.
Trend lines.
And you talked about this earlier. It's so funny. Like, I joke about this all the time, is that, everybody, it's kind of a meme at this point in life, but certainly in this space, you got to get your 10,000 hours of, chart time to become a Malcolm Gladwell outliers, master. But you talked about journaling. You need to do 10,000 hours of journaling and analyzing your own trades, not 10,000 hours of clicking between timeframes blindly and 9 charts and pretending that somehow you're seeing something or work. That's like saying that I'm, 10,000 hours of watching Cobra Kai repeats and becoming a master in karate. It just doesn't make any sense. So staring at a chart is literally a waste of time. Yeah, you need to go to a chart, know what you're looking for, set your alarm, and walk away until it goes off.
Yeah.
Because nothing's changing in between.
Yeah. And treating it, just analytical on yourself, start to finish, self-reflection. And I am guilty of that. I have spent, and I actually have some time management systems in place right now where, after an hour, I just have a little alert that goes off and it's like, get up, move away, because you can stare at it for as long as you want. It's not going to give you any more insight. In fact, I would bet that within 10 minutes or 5 minutes of looking at a chart, I've got a pretty good idea of what I think about it. And anything beyond that. And I used to think that. So here's one mistake I'll share, because that's one of the things I like to do on the show, is just share the things that I fucked up so that perhaps somebody watching could be like, okay, thanks for that. I won't do that same thing. But sometimes more or less is more. So with TA, I had this one trade and I remember, and I hit it here and there's like, oh, that's Confluence. That's sick. And then I added another tool. I was like, that's very cool. And then it was coming up in a Gann arc. I was like, perfect. And I had, my confidence was boosted so high on that position. And you know exactly what happened already. That's why I'm telling this story. I sized up and the position just got wrecked, and it should have been like any other trade, but it wasn't. I probably lost I took like a 4 or 5% hit, which is pretty high for me. Like that hurts, as opposed to like my 0.5% and 1% that I usually take. So more confluence does not mean size up more, like if it's one thing, okay, 0.5%. If I get 3 other things that agree with it, maybe go to 1% or 2%, but there is no upper ceiling. There is no, guarantees in any amount of shit you have, obviously. So.
Also, people are looking for confluence, right? Yeah. It's another part of the emotional and the way that you approach a trade. You subconsciously, consciously, whatever, you want to convince yourself that an entry that you're taking is good. So you start pulling up indicators until you find a bunch of them that tell you that it's good. Yeah. Probably ignoring the ones that tell you that it's bad, or, it's just the nature of the beast. I think it's funny. I gave one of the keynotes at World CryptoCon last year. RIP to that, because that's clearly not happening this year, unfortunately. But they asked me to give a talk on trading, and so I went up and I gave a talk on all the reasons that somebody shouldn't trade, which was not, I think, what they were expecting, in front of a huge audience of traders and streaming. But I started the whole thing basically pretending it was like Trading Anonymous, like Alcoholics Anonymous. And I went through every single technique, indicator thing I've used in the past. I was an Ichimoku Cloud, Maximalist, supply demands, OBV, RSI, blah, blah, blah. Point being, exactly what you're saying is that the more you trade, the more you realize that none of that helps. You just find the simplest way to find ideas fast, and then you let them happen. And if you can do that, you will be profitable. So I don't even like, if I see a trade, if I draw a line, whether it's a stupid line or not, depending on what anyone else thinks, if it hits and I'm planning to take a trade, I take a trade there. I don't pull up 10 more things to try to convince me that it's a good idea. I just
and that's
take
actually
a trade,
a lot.
I set my stop loss and I move on with my life. Come back when the alarm goes off and tells me if I made money or if I lost money.
Yeah, and that's a lot easier to do when you've sized yourself appropriately.
Correct.
Right? Because when you're oversized, and this is one of the things I tell people all the time. Yeah, I say if you find yourself, like how long is it from when you wake up to when you check a chart? And when you check that chart, how anxious are you? How worried are you? If any of those things are ringing a red flag, you're probably oversized. And that doesn't, maybe that's $500. Maybe 1% on your account is such that it still stresses you out. So you have to go down to 0.25% or 0.5%. Whatever it is, it's more what it does to your behavior that to me tells you, like, is it sized up too much or too little? And I've done that where I get into a nice trade and it's like boring. It's so small. It's like, oh, I might make a couple $100. I lose $50. But I trade it perfectly, right? I don't touch it. I manage it beautifully. There's zero emotion. And then, another time like this summer, I think is a suitable topic right now because I think a lot of people made quite a bit of money in Uniswap and whatever else with some of these things, 10X, 100X. I saw you were in YFL. I mean, that thing, we were looking at that. I think it was like August 29th or something. And it just went bing. And then it was just 100%.
$15 to 2,000.
Yeah. Like insanity. So suddenly your account size, I'm just using as an example, maybe you started this summer with 10K, your account size might be 200, 300K right now. So that 1% is a month's salary because you're still just an average guy who just started this thing with 10K. And yeah, it's 1%, but it might be stressing you out. And so in that sense, I think it's important to, it's less about the percentage and more about how it affects you. So if you've suddenly just ballooned your account, and that's, congrats. But, and I'm dealing with a bit of that right now. Like, I'm going to start just setting my risk at a level that's regardless of like the percentage. I just need it to be small enough that I can sleep and let it sit and not really worry about it. And that's getting a little harder to do right now because I'm just looking over here to my charts and that, and we're in a bit of a chop zone. We're in a bit of a transition state right now. And like you said, it could be a dip and we're going to continue on. And I hope it is. And I'm positioned in some ways that it's good if it is. But in other ways, it might just be a pivot. And, we get the election coming up. We got end of year tax selling. Q4 is typically not that great. And maybe the party's over and we're going to just come down, squeeze it out and start anew in January. So with that, what do you think about getting into some charts today?
Sure. Happy to. What do you want to look at?
Let's start with the king. I will start with my little GAN here. If you want to pull up sort of nice little contrast, we can see what we're both looking at on this. Now, this is one that I've got drawn up. It's a GAN. And sorry, guys, I'm not looking at the chat too much. We got the producer in there checking in, you guys. So if you have any requests a little later on, we will do those near the end of the cast here. So hit us up there. And I see some guys over in TradingView. Momo Bebo, what's up? How's it going? We've got Stefan. We got Sheplik over there and Daniel. Good to see you guys. Great to have you. And if you guys haven't yet, hit us up on the YouTube. You can sub, you can like it, you can comment, let us know what you want to see. I'll be doing a lot of 101 stuff coming up with regards to trading, risk management, all the things that Scott and I are talking about today. So a quick plug there if you guys are liking what you see. Now, back to Bitcoin. This is the 3-day chart. This is a downtrend GAN drawn from basically June 2019 when we peaked. And we wrote up this arc. Now, I've had this thing up here for months, as you can imagine, and just slowly tracking it. I love these high time frame studies as you can kind of just watch them evolve. And after this 8-to-1 GAN now, that's this. I know this looks like a lot of noise to some people, so I'll try to help explain it. But this is an 8-to-1 angle. It's basically like the line in the sand for this chart. If we go above it, it's like a whole new study. It breaks this whole thing, which would be great. But for now, it acted as resistance. You can see here it tagged. Here it got rejected, here it tagged again, and then crapped out. So, and that's kind of what you'd expect to see. Just like on the other end, if it was a bullish GAN, you would expect to see that act as support. So we rolled over here and just bouncing along this support now. So this is a very critical level. One of the rules that I really follow, I don't know if you've heard of this one, Scott, is the GAN 50-50. Have you heard of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have. I'm not a huge GAN guy, but I went through my my few days of it for sure.
Okay, yeah. So that's basically just this half the distance and half the time. So if this is the move up, this is the rally. And he believes like the vibrational signatures of the universe, and they applied to behavior and assets, and so they reflect in prices. And so that cut in half, that's 52 bars in the 3-day bars, and then half that move back down would be 26. Now, interestingly, on the daily, that's exactly November 3rd. So it's the U.S. election would be half the time of this rally up. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and I drew it on the chart here, and that would put us at around 8,100, which would actually align with this GAN our angle as well. So there's a few things, again, looking for that confluence, looking for a couple of reasons why this is a location. Now, I wouldn't trade necessarily to this unless I had a short setup, like not just blindly saying I'm going to short to that, because that's crazy. But it's one to watch, and it's sort of what I got here for a little roadmap, for what it's worth. That's if we break down from this level. That's what I'll be watching. Okay.
Yeah,
so
it's really interesting.
Yeah, we've got Dave Millett has said, my mic is much lower. Let's see if I can fix this sound here a little bit. Sorry, guys. We got the audio mix. Let's take Scott's down a bit, and I'll take mine up a bit. All right, testing now. How's that? Scott, can we get a little sound check?
Check, test.
I sense that here on the thing, but we're waiting for feedback. So thank you, Dave. Let's see if that came through. Now, that's my 2 cents on the higher time frame. That's what. Okay, so Emma says that's better. Let's take it down even a little more. Better is like a nice way of saying you could do more. How about now? Check. Scott, let's get a quick check.
Yeah, check.
Okay, so that should definitely have skewed us in the right direction. And I'll give myself another decibel here. Okay, so what do you say we get you on the screen share? So if you want to switch over to your screen share.
Sure.
Excellent, Dave. Thank you. And let us know, guys, if any other kind of audio, video stuff comes up. It's live, so things like this will happen on the go, and we'll just fix them up as we go. Okay, so we've got Scott's screen share here.
Charts randomly here, but all right, here's the monthly. And like I said, sort of you have a longer term approach. I don't really worry about where we're going in a long time frame. I generally play charts level to level, and don't try to get too far ahead of myself. So I don't try to make grand predictions. I can definitely say that in general, I'm far more bullish than bearish, and I think that it's only a matter of time before we see those crazy kind of high numbers that everyone's been talking about. But those are more, from a macro and global perspective, and just the things I'm seeing in the market. I mean, these are the key levels that I've had drawn on the monthly chart that I share all the time. This pink line obviously is key, 10,540, because when we were coming down here, that basically the break of that symbolized the first higher high in market structure since that 14,000 high. So in theory, I would really like to see 10,540 hold on a monthly candle, which not surprisingly it did here. And if you see, actually, this candle right here basically straddled 2 levels perfectly. So, 10,540 is kind of the line in the sand for me as far as whether I'm expecting the moon mission everybody's worried about or kind of more chop. I've always had 9243 drawn here as well as another just key level if we're just talking about horizontals. I mean, if you look here, literally from this candle on, which is June 2019, every single candle here has had like a major interaction with this except for this candle right here. Closed right at it, touched it on the bottom. That was the breakthrough. Rejected on the close, rejected on the close, rejected on the close, rejected on the close. This is where the wicks were, and that's what we finally broke, right?
Yeah.
So like that's kind of, if you're looking at the monthly of 10,430 breaks down, that's where I expect to be. But I mean, it's sort of like you just mentioned. If you pull fibs from the, when crypto died and was going to zero in March. That's sarcasm.
For a couple of days,
pulled up to the 12,000s. Yeah, I don't have them pulled. I mean, I can pull it, but we all know that around 70, 100 or something is the 61.8, 71.54.
Yeah.
Right. Even 64.03 at the 70.5, which is not a fib level, just to be clear before people start calling me dumb.
It's just gonna say that actually.
Yeah, the 50 and the 70.5 are, the 50 is considered the Dow level. People who've been trading stocks and not crypto look for a 50% retracement on almost any impulsive move. So if you zoom in on any lower time frame on a move, let me see if I can even do that. but it's kind of ugly. But like the moves that happened recently, when you see an impulsive dump or an impulsive pump, you kind of expect that like you'll see a 50% bounce back. So like I haven't even pulled it, but I bet from here like to here, like this is around 50% from here. You know what I mean? Like from the higher one to here, this will be around the 50% of those smaller moves. Because it almost always happens. So like a 50% is, while it's not a fib level, as you said, as we said, it still is a really key kind of level. But as you can see, pulling back out.
It's important in GAN as well. GAN loved that 50. That's actually why I thought it was on there. So it's interesting now I'm learning today from you that that's a stock market. What did you call it?
They call it the Dow level, literally, because it's so essential to stock traders and has been forever. And then the 70.5 is what institutional flow guys consider the OTE, the optimal trade entry. So a lot of people look to overshoot the golden pocket and catch the real bottom or the wick at around the 70.5. But even on a move like this, 57.04 would be the 78.6. Nothing weird about that, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about perspective. That would destroy people. They would lose their minds if price went there, but there would be nothing weird about it.
That's why I love these RLZs, as I call them, the reload zones. And it's the 702 actually is what I have on there. It's just the halfway between the 618 and the 786. So I just put that on. I call it the sweet spot. And it's amazing how often, like right now, actually on Ethereum and Bitcoin, we're coming up into one. And of course, it's right when everyone says, oh, I was wrong, we're bullish, we're going higher. And I'm just sitting there looking at it going, actually, I think we're just parked in this short RLZ. And like you say, I can flip over here just for a quick sec. Like right here, I've had this marked where we're just coming up into this short RLZ on Ethereum. And as you say, like right now, it's looking really bullish. This is the time where I want to long my longs. If I'm just, again, not really sure what I'm doing, I'm not myself personally, but you know what I mean? Like that's that level where people start to get really bullish up through here, where in fact, I'm just seeing bearish divergence. I'm seeing things start to roll over, not on the RSI yet. So it's interesting. There's no short setup here yet, but this is definitely like a location where I think, okay, well, I'm probably looking for shorts. Just like here is a location where I'm probably looking for longs. And you can see how that kind of worked out coming down into this area here. Yeah. But here, what did you think? Right? It's bearish. We're dumping.
It's dead.
It's
going to zero.
Like we're certainly dropping down to this level here, but we sprung back up. So if we are going to go down here, which unfortunately I just think that there's certainly a more than zero chance. I think, like you say, if we got down there and you were on the Bitcoin monthly, if we do squeeze into those areas, a lot of people would sell their Bitcoin to stronger hands, and it's those guys that are moving the market. So I think, but on the other hand, it's like, well, cat's out of the bag. Government's printing money, global uncertainty around fiat currencies. It's the perfect storm for Bitcoin to just nuke to friggin' 20,000 by the end of next year or more. So who knows? And I'm kind of with you on that. I don't like to make big grand predictions. Like the GAN chart I put up with that target it's simply just, that's TA. That's the GAN 50/50. It's a spot. I'm watching it. If we come into there, I'll be thinking longs, but it's not as much about making predictions because, that's how I was taught. Brian Beamish at TRI. He's just, my trade mentor. He'd be like, nah, dude, we don't make predictions. We find setups, we hunt setups, we vet the setups, we trade the setups. Like it's pretty straightforward. You can get lost in prediction town and what are they worth really? So, what do you think of the Dixie? Have you been charting the US dollar much lately? Did you buy into all that?
I have. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think
I look at it all the time.
So
it's probably have the same line, actually. I'm kind of looking at yours right now.
Yeah.
Funny, I can hear, if you have a screen share, let me pull up. I can pull up the daily.
Oh, yeah, I can flip us back and forth really quickly. So you stay on screen share.
You flip me back.
Yeah.
All right, so this is my daily, and I drew this days ago and shared it. While everybody was getting super, super exuberant here, getting really bullish, like rationally, the dollar should drop, right?
Well, it should at least pull back. Yeah, we should at least test that breakout level.
But our government wants the dollar to drop.
They're doing everything they can.
Dollar weakness is the key to a strong stock market coming into the election, right? That's just reality. And the war to devalue currencies is not going anywhere. So there's not much motivation for a strong dollar. I don't even generally look at the daily. I just saw everybody freaking out. Obviously, you have this bullish divergence with RSI. Extremely oversold. You expect a bounce. Well, we almost hit overbought here, but this is kind of what I was looking for. But this is the monthly, which is kind of the ball game to me. I mean, this is, a perfect channel since, 2010, but effectively since the 2008 Great Recession began. We had a clear breakdown of support. And to me, even if it overshoots, this looks like a, bearish retest of support as resistance. And I've been talking about this literally for like years.
12 years.
I've had this chart going
years.
for years. And I mean, if you look at the EQ of this channel, I mean, the support here, the break here.
Oh, I love that. See, this is why I love TA. Here. I mean, I find TA so fascinating.
Here, well, let's. I know I've got this chart somewhere. 1 second. Yeah, here you go. Here's a Bitcoin and dollar DXY chart comparing, if my slow internet will allow it.
Yeah, where's the
This is a weekly.
That? There you
so
go.
That's Bitcoin. That's the dollar. I mean, listen, I'm not much of a correlation dude, but the peaks and valleys of this are so obviously opposing that it's ridiculous, right? So dollar weakness has clearly translated to Bitcoin strength, gold strength, silver strength, stock market strength, and vice versa. So if you want to look at something, I'm not a big fan of looking at other things because I think you can just basically chart Bitcoin and trade it accordingly. But if you must, here you go. These are the most inversely correlated assets based on the visual, not necessarily based on actual -1 to 1, although they are moderately correlated, but still very clear there that we want to watch the dollar to see what's happening. So that's why I think we'll puke here.
That's actually the first time.
I could be wrong. It could blast through, but I mean, I drew this before we saw this red for other people candle today.
Yeah. No, and I had that resistance up. Nick Cote's another analyst here with Hxro Labs. He's on Wednesdays and Fridays with me, and he's got a thesis around the dollar kind of rallying. He's been looking up, the COT reports and all that stuff. Here, I'll switch back here. The COT reports, and he's he's seeing a lot of people are out of position for a U.S. dollar rally, and so he thinks that might be a really good squeeze play as far as the movers of the markets really taking the max pain to the people and crushing the market and then rallying it in, whatever. So there's some of that macro stuff that we've been looking at. I agree with
that.
Yeah. I mean, we've been looking at, I hadn't looked at the monthly uptrend breakdown, though. That's a really interesting perspective. I'm going to have to remember to add that to my...
It's on a log chart, by the way. If you draw it on a linear chart, it looks more like a bounce from support. So it's another one of those things.
And do you tend to switch back and forth, or do you live on the log chart?
I live on log.
Okay, that's good to know. I flip back and forth. I typically don't use log, but certain charts and obviously with certain tools, it works better. Trend lines being one of them.
I was always more of sort of a log maximalist, but I really got sold when I was charting Bitcoin in late 2017, and you would see what it looked like. A relative move from 19,700 to 19,800 should not look the same as it looked on a chart from 5,900 to 6,000. You know what I mean? Yeah. So to me, the percentage basis move is much more important and compelling than that defined linear movement. So
yeah, that's
just
fair. Things got a little
matter
of
of preference.
Yeah, on the non-logarithmic, it got a little out of control in 2017 for sure. Now, how familiar are you with the M2 money supply ticker?
Not something that I look at, but I'm familiar with it.
Okay, so I've charted this up. Now, I actually borrowed this. I forget the guy's name. He's a member over at TRI where I do some trading and did my trading education. And so I got to give him that shout out. But he posted this. I said, dude, I'm stealing this. And this is the SPX divided by M2. So it's the way I've kind of interpreted, and I just wanted to get your thoughts. You got me thinking about it with the US dollar talk. The way I've interpreted it as basically the stock market when adjusted for inflation. Now, some economists over on TradingView jumped on our idea with there's actually a really good conversation going on in this thread for this idea. Actually, I could just pull it up. But they, where is it? Down here. This thing ended up with like 55 comments. So there was quite a debate and people saying, that's not simple inflation. There's more to it. But in a nutshell, it's a very interesting chart. I mean, you get the 2000 crash, so the sort of the NASDAQ drop and all that. And then that rally up through to 2008 when adjusting for the inflation and the rise in them too, was really just a test of these highs. Then we had the 2008 stock market crash. And when adjusting for inflation, or, you know, just dividing by M2, all this rally we've seen since is not even to new to all-time highs. In fact, as if it's some, you know, dirty Forex trade, it just swept the highs here. And then that was our 2020 crash.
It's really
what do you think of that? I mean, it's interesting, right? Is it not? Like, it's just, I don't know what to make of it other than that it's just fascinating that we would have such a TA alignment here.
Well, something that I find really fun is, if you want to talk about inflation, is charting the stock market against other more hard assets like Bitcoin, gold, and things like that, as opposed to the dollar. And when you chart everything against the dollar and then against one another, you realize that most of the rise that you see in markets is not actually a rise in markets, but a drop in dollar value.
Yes.
So, you know,
exactly. And that's what
I think. And if you want to talk macro and not charts and not about trading, I mean, that's what people experience in their everyday lives and are experiencing now, right? Is your salary doesn't go up, the price of things go up. Price of things are not rising. The value of your dollar, your buying power is dropping. And so what you're showing there is a really, really cool visualization of that. Mm-hmm. And this is the wool that's pulled over people's eyes, right?
Yeah.
People see the numbers and they don't think about the context. Well, if you can't buy anything with your dollar, if your dollar is becoming worth less, of course, everything else seems to go up, right? And that's why I like to pull up that DXY versus Bitcoin chart and things like that to sort of get that perspective.
Yeah, and I think it's a great, I mean, it really speaks to the whole thesis behind Bitcoin and investing. And I'm sure you're familiar somewhat with, what's his name? I don't know if they call him Bitcoin Jesus. I don't know. I'm forgetting his name right now. Andreas Antonopoulos.
Yeah.
And you've heard him speak before. And he's actually the guy who got me into Bitcoin with his Joe Rogan podcast back in 2016, I guess it was, but I heard it in 2017. And he's been talking about all of this stuff, and it's just kind of crazy. If you've watched on London Real, he did an interview with, I believe it's Derek Rose, and he talked about this in 2016, and then he comes back on the show 2 years later. He's like, yep, so there's the dollar rolling over, and here's this, and here's that. Like, it's really fascinating, and it comes back again to this chart and the idea that, you know, a loaf of bread could cost $50 in 20 years. And, you know, unfortunately for most people in the world, wages are not increasing as fast.
Right. And this phenomenon is much clearer anywhere but the United States, right? I mean, if you look at, we happen to be the dollar reserve currency. The dollar happens to be the reserve currency of the world. So, you know, inflation is slower. There's always demand for dollars. But if you go somewhere, obviously, all over South America, Argentina, Venezuela, Lebanon, Iran, places like this, where you see that, you know, loaf of bread for a suitcase full of money, you know that it can happen. It will just be much slower and less obvious in the United States, I think.
Yeah, well, it's somebody joked, I think it was like on Twitter or something, they said basically all these fiat currencies are falling one by one, and USD will be like the boss currency. It'll be like the boss at the end of the Mario world.
It is.
You know, the last one to spiral out. Yeah, it'll be like people saying, well, the dollar's strong. It's like, well, yeah, but it'll be the last to fall. Like, if, you know, according to Andreas, this whole thing, they're all based on the same system, the borrow, the credit cycles, the debt cycles. It's like equivalent to basically borrowing from one credit card to pay off another one. And if that's the case, then, you know, they all are kind of slated for the same fate, unfortunately, which really is the case for Bitcoin.
We print $1 and create $4 in debt every time we do it, right? So, I mean, that's a cycle that's not going to end anytime soon.
Yeah. Now, here's one more quick macro one that I think we could bring up while we're on this topic, and then maybe we can dive into shitcoins. I know we want to talk about NFTs today at some point as well.
Sure.
Now, this is Bitcoin USD divided by the US 30 index. Now, this is actually a buddy of mine, also on Twitter, Jack Sparrow, BTC Jack Sparrow.
Of course.
He put this on my chart one day, on his chart, and I was like, yeah, I'm stealing that. That looks really cool. And so, you know, this is basically Bitcoin versus the stock market is the way he kind of hypothesized it. And I think it was back here just breaking out when we first brought it up. And it's just kind of chopping along here. So if you take Bitcoin, its value, and then compare it to the stock market, what would you make of this comparison? Valid, invalid, something you're looking at or not?
Not something I'm looking at, but I think it's really interesting. I love his TA and analysis. I can, I've been on a lot of live streams with him, and he always blows my mind. Just such a smart guy and really unique approach. Not something that I would have thought of, but this kind of goes back to what I was talking about, which is choosing to compare markets without the dollar sort of in the mix, right?
Yeah.
Neither looks as impressive when you compare them to one another as opposed to comparing them to the dollar.
Yeah, exactly. And I know we got to get him on here. Actually, I was DMing him last week.
He's awesome,
but he's building up something special. I was going to say what it is, but I was like, I don't want to say it just in case he's not told everyone. But
he loves GAN, so I can see why you guys would get along.
We worked together a year and a bit ago, and we just stay in touch. But he's building something out there, and he's going to be doing a lot of surfing, I think, in the next little bit. So he's busy. But we'll have him on here in no time, I'm sure. Now, let's flip over the conversation to NFTs. Maybe we'll just slide back over here real quick. I just want to pull up. Now, I've been invested with Block Party since the beginning, and they've just recently done a flip over to NFT token, sort of to take on this NFT craze, which, again, they were working on this for months, but it's really taking off now. I guess I could start with the chart, and you're actually talking with them a little bit too, to do some of your, mixing your passions with music and crypto. Did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So it's funny. I've been in touch with them because of my music background when they were primarily a ticketing platform, right? Which is obviously what you were investing in and what they started as. They were doing music festivals. We were talking about me playing at one of their festivals and kind of reaching out to my old contacts in the music industry to link them and obviously expand their reach. And then we've been in touch, and they pivoted obviously to NFTs, as you said, which I found so cool because it was something that I was not really well versed in, but immediately gravitated towards the concept because I love art. I consider myself an artist. I have been for a long time. It's been sort of the core of what I've done my entire life. And so the ability to prove scarcity and to do things that are really rare and really custom that some person will covet is very meaningful to me. So conceptually, I think that it's a brilliant idea. It doesn't mean that there won't be a ton of bullshit and that most of it won't be memes and a joke down the road, but I think that the core use case of it is absolutely brilliant. And so I started talking to them about finding ways to utilize some of my old music or projects that I've been working on. And so I started working with visual artists, and basically, so I have a drop actually coming out with them in about 2 weeks, most likely. And I took one of my old tracks that had gone viral from a project I did called Ball & Notes, which was a full remix project of Hall & Notes tracks that I did that, had millions and millions of listens. And so I'm separating it. There's limitations for musicians. It hasn't really been used for music because they can only be about 30 seconds long to avoid the compression issues that you have when you mint it. So you can't really do a whole song right now as an NFT.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Yeah, that's something worth.
Well, nobody really. This is we've dug in because nobody's really doing it for music, right?
So is that a scaling issue? Is that something where you would, or is it just?
It can be done down the road, but it's right now. It's a pretty fixed limitation, and also, I think NFTs are just custom built for visuals, right?
Yeah,
so I think
this is interesting because I think we're speaking to maybe a potential next iteration. Is this an idea that's kind of tied to the block size on Ethereum? Is that
to some degree, and also just to the platforms that I think are sharing them, the ability to actually mint it and then deliver it. And so it's complicated. I haven't dug so deep into it. We just went to the point where I was like, I want to do songs, and we figured out that we could basically do 30-second clips. Ooh. So my concept that I came up with was that to make it sort of limited edition and cool, we would do 7 visuals to 30-second clips of a song. And then if somebody collected, or it's going to be 8 actually, but if someone collected the entire thing, then they would get the entire thing comped and delivered as a single file that only they would own, on top of owning the NFTs of the individual 30-second things. And, there's all these crazy cool things you can do, but basically it gave us an excuse to make 8 different pieces of art, And so the possibilities are endless with it. I mean, I've heard people doing really amazing charitable applications of it where, you put a QR code in and you can use that QR code to donate to the person in the painting or something like that. I mean, just really, really amazing, cool things. But at the core of it, I think it's just a great way to deliver art and to prove that you're the only one. People love having rare things and things that are only their own. I mean, I've been a sneaker collector since I was an adult. Guy. I've gotten rid of most of them over the years. It was a joke. But between my records and my shoes, moving apartments in New York City, I would have to get like a 2-bedroom instead of a 1-bedroom just because of my shoes and my records. So that became a problem. But yeah, I mean, there's just something about owning something rare that, not many other people have. And I think that NFTs really, really speak to that.
Yeah, I'm pulling up a tweet because there was a really good thread, and actually we talked about it on Friday as well, and you just got me thinking about it. And it was basically 25 industries that NFTs are going to disrupt. To your point, yeah, here we go. So I'll switch over here real quick. So while we can talk on this while we look through here. I mean, art being the big one, and the idea of ownership and collections and trading. And I mean, this makes me think of like when I was a kid, Pokemon cards and Magic the Gathering cards and Beanie Babies and all this stuff. Anything like that that can be called rare then becomes coveted, collected, and you just get these hoarders and these people that and then art obviously has a deeper meaning as well to a lot of people who are into art. But, collectibles, we've got animated and card collectibles, domain wallet names, right? .com domains were collected. I'm sure Twitter handles are being hoarded. Fantasy sports, NFT marketplaces, project launch platforms. So the list goes on, and I mean, we're only at 12 out of 25. And obviously your focus on this is music, and you're capped at 30 seconds now, but it sounds like you guys have a good workaround coming out the gates here.
We just thought it was a unique way to approach distributing art. They're working with Justin Blau as well. Actually, was just on my podcast that we talked about this, but he's finding it as a way to take tracks that were never finished and give people a sample, sort of 30 seconds of an idea. What I can say as a producer, and I can say this with confidence, that almost every person who produces music probably has like 1,000 songs on the side that they never finished, never used, could never get licensed, or could never find a use for. They're all amazing. And also this
That's why Tupac keeps coming out with new albums.
That's exactly right. So, it sort of eliminates the pressure for a lot of people to like make a full song that their label likes, or that's like danceable and for the club, or that's like right for their audience, and gives you the freedom to just like come up with a really cool 8-bar loop and put it to something amazing visual. Also, like any bigger DJ who's been touring and stuff, who's suffering right now through COVID, has like show visuals that are incredible from their shows that are tied to their music, and they can break that down into 30-second segments and say to someone, listen, I don't have a show, but like you will now be the owner of this part of my show. Things like that. I think it's just so cool. And
I saw that. I think it was actually for sale. It was one of the second or first drops that NFT Protocol did, and it was a Blau thing, and it was like a visual, really trippy kind of like spinning triangle, and there's a little music track underneath. So I think it's already kind of started on their he's definitely experimenting with it. He has another drop next week, I think. Really cool stuff. There's going to be interest, I think, from two angles here, because me personally, and I already ranted on this last week, I said to myself, I can screen grab that piece of art. Now I'm not an art collector, obviously, if you can't already tell, and that's fine. I don't think I'd be hating on the concept of it. I love music. I go to shows, but I still might buy those simply because there's a market for them, and I think later I can sell them. There's going to be traders, there's going to be investors, speculators.
People are killing it already.
Yeah, exactly. And then you get the more hardcore people who just really want the art. And then maybe, of course, in 10 years, if it's worth Picasso level stuff, they're like, well, I'm going to sell this now. And so there's just a lot of reasons to be excited. And you can even get into things here. I've got, going back to what is an NFT, it's a non-fungible token. It's just a token that represents something specific with lots of, whatever that is, details. It could be an insurance policy. It could be a medical document, right?
Yep.
So this is, we're talking about more of the flashy, exciting art-based stuff. But there's a lot of real world use cases. And what NFT protocol is building is a bit deeper than just a platform. They're looking to build indexes and sort of what would eventually help create price discovery for the entire ecosystem of NFTs. So that's one that I remain excited about.
Super cool.
And I think, what are they at now? I don't think the market cap's been listed yet, but
the screen grab thing is so stupid.
Yeah. So hit me up on that. That's just an off the cuff opinion.
No. I know that you're not saying it. I know
did
who
screen
did.
grab
Obviously,
it.
I'm friends with Peter McCormick. It's not a thing, but that's
Yeah.
been like obviously the ongoing debate. And he's stirring the pot as usual, and I can appreciate that because it gets the conversation going.
Yeah.
But I mean, quite literally in 1995, when I went to college and moved into my freshman dorm room, I would say 40 to 50% of the girls had a poster of Van Gogh's Starry Night on their wall. Like, that's a screen grab. That doesn't minimize the value of the actual one that's hanging in the MoMA in New York City, right? And so, like, of course, there's copies of every great art piece of all time so that people can enjoy them and people can look at them and, have that little piece of it for themselves. But that takes absolutely nothing away from the original. And, these originals are being delivered generally with NFTs in a much higher quality. You can put it on a projector or a screen, and there's creative things you can do for displaying it in extremely high resolution that someone doesn't get by screen grabbing it on Twitter. But a picture of a Picasso is not the same as a Picasso, and if you've experienced it, like, I was in Madrid and my favorite painting is the Guernica by Picasso. And the thing is like the size of a drive-in movie theater when you see it in real life. It's just not the same,
That's a really good point because, again, I went on stream, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and I joked. I said, look, if I really want this picture, I can screen grab it. But when you really tie it back to like real art, or not real art, physical art, paintings and stuff, it makes perfect sense because you can have, and there are posters of every major art piece out there. So you made a really good point here, and I think that's an important one. I'm glad we got that sort of on the cast today because guys like myself who's looking at this, I'm always, I'm a trader. I'm looking at it's like, okay, how can I trade this? Where's the value proposition? All this stuff. I'm a speculator. But when you tie it back to art, I mean, it was a really trippy painting. I think it sold for or digital art creation. And I think Pomp, I saw it in Pomp's newsletter later, so I think he actually bought it.
He bought the physical painting that the NFT was based on. So him and Jason got outbid on the actual NFT, the Picasso bull. And so they went and bought the actual physical painting that it was based on for like $50,000. So they didn't actually buy the NFT, but they're all in on the NFT space. Ari Paul, funds are buying these things. This is not a joke. Yeah. And it's one of those things where you can either laugh at it or you can also choose to laugh at it while investing in it and making money. And there's nothing better than making money while you're laughing at something. If you ask anyone who has ever farmed a yam, sushi, hot dog, hamburger, there's a lot of profit to be made. And also, I think just an important thing about art in general, and then which obviously applies to NFTs, is everybody in the world can think it's stupid and ridiculous, but you just need one person who loves your art and is willing to pay for it.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So it's very subjective. Everybody gets a different feeling from art. A lot of people will look at this and be like, that's a stupid cartoon. Right. Yeah. And then a lot of people will look at this and think it's the most brilliant thing that they've ever seen. And it doesn't matter with art. You just need the one person who believes in it. And then for them, another person to sell it to. Even, people buy houses and they're ugly and they find that one person who thinks their ugly house is amazing, who buys it. Doesn't matter what the real estate
It's not ugly.
is.
It's cute.
Right.
It's personal. Yeah.
Right. Point being that beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and, there's going to be markets for these things, but it should also be clear. People are absolutely killing it flipping these things right now.
Oh yeah. If you can, these drops on NFT protocol so far, I think they've all been selling out in 2 minutes. But
then the secondary market is immediately, we talked about sneakers, right? If you can get a pair of sneakers at the store for $200 at price and you can put it on eBay for $450, $500 an hour later. It's not very different.
Talk about PS5s, right? I mean,
right.
those things came out.
Not so different. It's not so different. So you can think it's stupid and ridiculous, but you can also, like, I also think Pokemon cards are kind of stupid and ridiculous, but I respect my friends, a lot of guys on Twitter who are literally making 7 figures flipping them around.
Yeah. No, I think somebody recently I think it was Nico online saying he
loves them.
Yeah, he's been going crazy with those. And, I think my thought on it isn't at all that, I think it's crazy or stupid. I love it. I love the idea of it. I think it's going to be huge. I just looked at this painting. This is a beautiful painting. But I'm a cheap ass. I'm like, if I really want that on my wallpaper, I could screen grab it. But you're right. It's not the same. And I can't resell my screen grab for anything.
But you should. Know what I mean? You should screen grab it and you should enjoy it as art, just like people enjoy copies of paintings. Like a painting, it would be sad if the only person who can enjoy every great piece of artwork in history was the one person who could afford to buy it, right?
Yeah.
So you need those screen grabs and copies for people to actually be able to enjoy your work. And most musicians would say, I don't want to sell my music to one person. I want the whole world to hear it. You know what I mean? But there's also something really cool. I mean, Wu-Tang sold an entire album to Shkreli or whatever, his name is. And he was the only asshole who got to listen to it, given they found the wrong buyer. But this model is not new. It's new that it's on the blockchain or whatever. But I mean, Wu-Tang literally sold an entire album to one person.
I feel like I heard about that way back when. But
I
couldn't tell you anything about it. But yeah, I mean, I think most artists would agree that art is meant to be consumed and enjoyed, and that's part of the pleasure of creating it. I really appreciate your thoughts on this. I've been dying to talk to somebody who's really in the know with NFTs and has kind of got their head wrapped around the art side of it, because I'm a teacher by trade, so I approach everything with an open mind and sort of, I'm happy to ask, what might be considered a dumb question or something, because I just learned from it. People are like, whoa, what did you ask that for? I'm like, well, someone else was probably wondering it too. I don't mind taking the fall on that. So I feel like I've learned a good chunk about it. And again, I'm a trader. I've got a bag of this stuff from like 2018, and I'm excited for its potential. I think it's still sub 10 mil market cap, and they're building sort of some of the foundational aspects of what will be a fairly robust NFT marketplace. So,
and they're just an awesome team. I mean, they're just
great group of guys.
They're the kind of people that, and I'm not even trying to shill. I have no direct, interest with them besides on using their platform, and I've known them and I think they're cool. But like, there's just certain vibe you get from a team where they're gonna find a way to be successful, right?
Well,
and you want to invest in it, and you just want to be a part of it. And I think that they've really found a very solid niche and have put together just a really interesting way to do this thing. I'm excited about it. For sure.
Yeah, I met them at a launch party in New York in 2018, I guess, 2019, and I think 2018. And I mean, Block Party fell on hard times with the COVID and the ticketing stuff, and they had some regulatory issues. And the fact that they stayed going through quite a bear. I mean, I was in the telegrams. I mean, there was a lot of frustration. There was a lot of salt, and these guys were just like, yeah, we're building this thing. It's going to be dope. And here they are. So as far as the team goes, very impressed with what they've put together, and I'm very excited for what they've got coming up. Now, on that note, I do want to get some engagement going on with we've got a decent crowd here today. We got 48 people watching, 47. We got a handful over on TradingView. Do you guys have any questions? Do you want to hit us up with some chart requests? There's a lot of blood in alts. Maybe yours is at the bottom. Maybe it's showing signs of reversal. Who knows? But throw a request in, and maybe Scott and I can do some rapid fire. Nick and I sometimes go back and forth, and we just give it a quick glance. Of course, it's not about, it's never on here like this is what will happen for your coin. But I know this from when I was just learning TA. I liked when someone who had a better handle on TA than I did at the time to just share their thoughts on it. So maybe while we collect some of those requests, so you guys get them rolling in, we can do some of that. Or just hit us up with questions. I mean, join the conversation. I see some chat in the YouTube here. Taking Back from Jones. We got Taking Back to Music. You could sell gift NFT as exclusive for different locations on tour. Imagine having a Yeezus tour NFT from attending. Yeah, and that was actually part of the Block Party model, was that for attending certain events, you could get a special NFT that was just for those goers.
Yeah, that's a huge. Yeah, they've had ways of doing that, but this is a much better way. But obviously, like a backstage pass, a gift pack, something like that. Yeah. But imagine like if you buy, a Kanye NFT that's like 20 grand, 30 grand, 50 grand, some crazy drop, but it gives you backstage access indefinitely to every Kanye show for the rest of time.
That would be sick. I actually
But like
saw
this is
him
the stuff,
live
but
in
artists
Toronto,
can do
yeah.
things like you can do this with NFTs very, very, very easily. And that's the point.
Yeah.
There's like endless ways to tie in the art to actual live experiences and things like that,
And now it's a QR code on your phone. And I think once we break down the barriers of entry and understanding, and you can have integrated seamlessly into your smartphone, tokens on the back end, all that stuff, it's awesome. It's an exciting kind of, I'd say, decade that we've got coming up here. We started off in crazy fashion. I think it's fair to say in 2020 was not one, a memorable one, but maybe one to forget for a lot of people. But I mean, I don't know. I've had a pretty good year overall.
Definitely won't forget it.
No, hard to forget this one.
Want to, but it'd be very hard to actually.
I think some of us, especially if you're trading, is one of the years where it's a very glamorous profession because you can do it from home, you can do it from anywhere, you can stay safe, and so feeling blessed in that regard. Very thankful. Now, Sheplik over on TradingView has apparently he's got a weird question. Says, but you never once, do you ever notice a correlation between your trading and the music you're playing, or just how the day goes? What music works best for you? Well, I've got a thought on that. What are your thoughts on that, Scott? I'll go after
100%. So I harp very hard on like only trading when you're in the correct mindset. Goes back to the emotional thing and all of that. But like, if you're pissed off at your kids, don't trade. Yeah. If you're way too tired, don't trade. If you're someone like me, who, like I have ADHD, and the greatest regulators for me are coffee, because I stopped taking medication years ago, and exercise. So like if I haven't exercised in 2 days because I've been too busy, like my brain is way too scattered for me to trust myself in front of a chart and to execute trades correctly. So I think it's a huge part. As for music, I've always been the type of person who listens to music when I do things, but I also know the words to like every single song. And I find it very distracting when I start like rapping along and I'm trying to do something else. So I largely try to listen to instrumental things or something that's a little less distracting. So like historically, I'll listen to a lot of jazz, or I happen to have an instrumental collections of almost every rap record ever without the lyrics. So I listen to that stuff where I can just kind of vibe out to the beats and stuff. But yeah, I mean, if you put on Rage Against the Machine, you're probably going to, trade differently than you would with Mozart on. So it's, for me, certainly music is a huge mood booster, or it can bring you down too. So if your goal is to be even, you have to find music or external forces that contribute, to the best side of what you want to be and do.
Yeah, and I was actually typically I'll get a track underlying the streams here, and it's a little different with the guests on, and we just didn't want, we paused on that today, but generally speaking, everything you just said resonated with me. I mean, I've got ADHD, I don't take the meds anymore, I need exercise. Like, it's just you're really hitting the spot for me today with these answers, and I'm with you on the music. I only listen to instrumentals. Mostly, like, I've got this deep house relax playlist that I really like if you guys are looking for specific ideas. And it's got a nice vibe. You'll hear it on the back end of our streams on Mondays when if I'm solo, or on Wednesdays. Wednesdays is Nick, but yeah. So like that kind of stuff. It's just got to be kind of subtle and in the background, and certainly not angry or stressful. And also some piano, some, relaxing piano, just things that just sit and spur creativity, even calmness, like all of those emotions that go along with trading, right? Calm, patient, clear-headed.
Absolutely.
So I absolutely think that. And lo-fi beats. Yeah, Sheplik saying he likes the lo-fi beats. That's actually what I started with in instrumentals, and then I trickled over into what's this other one I've got, like jazz vibes it's called. So it's a little bit like hip-hop and jazz. Yeah, jazz vibes and chill step, chill hop, all that kind of stuff. So absolutely love it. We've got a few questions over here on YouTube. Let's see. Martin Shkreli bought the Wu-Tang album and isn't legally allowed to play it. He tried on stream a few times but got contacted by lawyers. Interesting. Ave Ghost. Any opinion on Ave Ghost? Don't know what that is. Tokens would you invest in? Yeah. Oh, what NFT tokens? Yeah, and that's the real question. Now, look, let's get up the NFT list. Maybe our producer John, if you're still there on the side there, you are. But yeah, if you could pull up that NFT list on CoinGecko and fire it over, and I'll take a look at that. There's actually they have an aggregated list of NFT projects.
I don't think it's seen that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's not exhaustive, but it's a great place to start. And interestingly, what's the one that's at the top? I don't know. We'll look at it in a sec, but it's one that we've all heard of. Theta. Theta is actually on there, and I think it caught a little rally last week with the conversation shifting towards NFTs. So let's see.
Well, that T-Fuel rally earlier this year was bananas. So.
That was something else. Yeah, I missed that one, but that actually kicked us off. That was like the January or February. It went nuts.
Yeah, it really kind of sparked a lot of altcoin action.
Yeah, along with H-Bar, good old Hedera, which is just falling asleep, sad face. I have a full-time tech job. I've always worked from home. Tough for me to share on Mondays. Conference calls. I enjoy listening. Oh, all right. Bitty Bird, crypto, appreciate that. I'm glad you found the time to tune in today. Art therapy is a powerful force for NFT designs. Instrumentals devoid of dialogue leaves your imagination up to interpretation. It served me well. Yep. So we got a lot of people agreeing with instrumentals. I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't think there's too much room for debate. Although I do have a buddy who liked to listen to Lil Wayne and that bank account song, some kind of gangster get hyped, make money type music, and he would sit there on the 5-minute chart and just go leverage deep. But who knows how that aged. Didn't know there was an NFT list. Yeah, so we're gonna pull that list up. I am sure. Okay, yeah. I saw your thing. You're right. The typing was loud. So let's just get that. Where is it? Here we go. No. Not sure about that NFT list. We'll bring that up in a sec. So we're going to get into some charts here. I saw ALGO got a rally today. Maybe I'll start there.
That's funny because I posted that. That's the only alt trade I took today.
Nice. Now, did you take it versus Bitcoin or USD?
I take everything versus Bitcoin.
Versus Bitcoin. Okay, cool. So I'll switch
now I'm opening it because I don't know what it's doing. So
yeah. If you've got a chart, you took the trade. It's in location for me, coming up on what I guess I had written as.
I can share it.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll flip to yours since you're actually trading it.
And this is a trade I've been watching for a long time and finally came to. There's another one where I can say I checked the chart. I shared it in my newsletter actually quite a few times just because I kind of saw it interested for weeks. So I took a trade on it here on this inverse head and shoulders, and you can see that I exited literally right here. Was the measured move for the target was to the SAT, which was kind of a fun trade.
Nice.
Love those. Here, and then as it fell back here and lost its support, I set an alarm on this blue line because it's just like a massive blue descending wedge. Obviously, I could have taken it here on this clear bullish divergence, but I prefer to trade on confirmations and move slower. So I actually took it on this retest right here. So I'm barely up actually. But you can see the breakout.
So you just flipped.
Yeah,
you
so
took that. Yeah.
Right there, right around 307. I think I didn't catch it right at 305 or whatever. So it's at 311 now. It's barely even up, and it's still. I don't love that it's under this this horizontal right here. So I would really, in a perfect world, probably if you're trading it now and you've already had that, you want to catch it here, right?
I certainly don't think it's left the station as far as the higher time frames. If this is going,
I think here. But this is if this is actually breaking out here. But this is a pretty solid line. 1, 2, 3, almost 4 touches before the break. And although it's minimal relative to the past, at least we saw some sort of increasing volume on the move up today, which is nice to see. Not huge, but if you drill into lower time frames, you'll see that that's a little more significant.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got the NFT list over on both chats over on TradingView and YouTube. So anyone who's interested, you can check it out there, bookmark it. I love that kind of stuff. They did one for DeFi earlier in the year, and it obviously aged really well. So yeah, ALGO. Is that midterm for you? Or are you thinking, we're ready to turn the corner and I'm just going to ride this? I guess you've got your orders set already.
I would hope to ride it in theory, but you know how it is with altcoins these days. They're going to do what Bitcoin does. And since we've all decided that Bitcoin is somewhat chopping and waiting for direction, I would say that if it falls back in that wedge, I'll probably exit and look for another entry and just take my small loss. In fact, it looks like we could have a bit of bearish divergence developing there now that I'm looking at it right now, but on the 4 hour here. But I mean, in theory, a breakout of a wedge like that should target near the top, or at least this other line at 4,300. I don't think I'm screen sharing anymore, but yeah, I mean, I try to take longer swing trades. I'm not really like a day trading scalper unless it turns into that, but my plan would be that it's hopefully reversing here and going to ride higher, but I don't stick around long if my plan doesn't come to fruition.
Yeah, and that's aged really well through the last couple of years, and I think, especially like we said, after getting sort of scooping up the rally this year, I'm certainly quicker to Tether and quicker to Bitcoin if I'm trading against Bitcoin than I used to maybe be in the past. I like to chart this dominance chart here. Let's take a look at it.
Yep.
We actually just flipped. Just to give you a little background, I guess you may not have seen this one, but it's just I've just framed the trend in Bitcoin on the daily as far as risk on, risk off. So if it's risk on window, that basically means Bitcoin is struggling versus alts. Alts should be rallying. So this was our February rally. And then, and through here, there wasn't a lot to do. This was sort of the consolidation after our kickoff to 2020 rally. And then this has been our big mega rally in altcoins this year with Ethereum getting a really nice boost as well. And so we've just confirmed fresh bullish market structure, which in this case is bearish for altcoins. So it's a bit of an inverse thing. Some people find this, it's a bit tricky to understand. But we are trickling back down. And, this isn't ironclad where it's like, oh, we're risk off and it has to be. So, I'm hopeful that this is going to be like a little turtle soup, little fake out, and we come back down. But what really drives this chart is Ethereum versus Bitcoin. That's the big daddy of them all. And I think you could draw it up a few ways. This is clearly a very bearish way to draw it up. It's just one view I have of it, and it's kind of hard for me to unsee. So I'm just, I'll put it on here. Always separating what I want from what I see. So what I obviously want is for, us to recover here and chill and then take off. I've got a bullish target on this thing, but for right now, I mean, it's hard to look at this and say this looks like it's ready for a whole ton more upside right now. And if this is the case, and ETH is going to trend down versus Bitcoin, then alts versus Bitcoin probably are not going to fare too well. But having said that, there is a lot of charts that are coming into their zones. I think ALGO is certainly one of them. I've got right up here on my chart as well. You got the bullish divergence confirmed on the daily. You've got the reclaim of the 786, and we're just back above the EMA. So, I mean, you got to trade your setups, and I think that's one thing that I historically, it's maybe a mistake of mine, is to get this higher time frame view where I'm like, okay, so ETH BTC is going to trend down here, and dominance is going to trend up here. So I'm not even looking at altcoins right now. Which could just age very poorly, because if I'm wrong, I may find out, and then I look back at Algo and I'm like, oh, cool, there was a really nice setup that came in here, but I wasn't looking. So I'm taking daily
I'm always
reminders.
looking.
I'm taking daily reminders to just trade the chart and look at it and not try to overthink it, like you say, the higher time frames, the fancier predictions and pivots. I know.
I think dominance is chopping right now a little bit too. Like it looks like it was breaking out, and
this just doesn't look too strong. Let's take a look over at what you've got. And then this also, I just remembered, we are giving away 1 year subscription to your newsletter. And so I think we are, we're running over the hour, which we talked about, and we're
That's
down,
fine.
which is fine. So I'm keen to keep going. So not at all to wrap the stream today, but I think it would be fair to those maybe who jumped on for that giveaway. Maybe we're anticipating it to be near the top of the hour. We will take care of that in a minute. So we'll look at your dominance chart, and I'll pull up Twitter and we'll start figuring out how we're going to do that. And then we'll announce that, and we can get back to some shit coins.
Sure. I just love this chart because it's been one of the clearest cut charts I've ever charted. And actually, I pulled up a thread, but I've been following it kind of on Twitter at literally every breakdown and bounce and rejection all the way down, sort of saying this is probably what's going to happen. And it just keeps on going. It's
beautiful.
Been a really cool chart. So, but you can see here, I mean, every horizontal has had a breakdown, rejection, breakdown to the next support, rejection, breakdown to the next support, rejection. So now, we saw this breakout, and I kind of had, if you're doing diagonals, this was a very clear resistance. So when we broke that, definitely exited most of my altcoin positions, luckily, which was a good thing.
Yeah.
But now we're kind of losing this again. So now I'm really watching to see if this is just a retest or if we're going to kind of trickle off and fall back down below.
Yeah, that's an interesting view, because I don't really have the diagonals on mine, but this pullback suddenly isn't, a reversal as much as maybe just a retest of that level.
Right. And you can see, like, this is where I got really, really excited about alts again, is that this horizontal was rejected and that this sort of top diagonal. And then when we broke this kind of triangle here, it was pure party time, and it hasn't failed me since. And the thing is, like, people freak out every time this happens. They're not watching Dominance. And I kept saying, it's in that Twitter thread, like, this is just, this is a reaction.
Yeah.
You got to go up to go down sometimes, and go down to go up. So,
well, it's why I love charting it, because it helps you keep in perspective, is this alt dip market top? Is it a dump? Are we done the rally? And you're like, well, actually Dominance has a long way to go, and you can see how cleanly it friggin' moves. It's like, it's
more fun than charting like an asset you can actually trade.
Yeah, well, and
I have an ETH chart too. I haven't even looked at it, but so to your perspective, yeah, the head and shoulders vibe is pretty clear. Bearish. Personally, I would have drawn the neckline. I would draw the neckline like that, just connecting the two lows perfectly between, and that would be a beautiful fake out. But if you draw it as a line instead of a zone, it looks a little more like it actually kind of flipped back and found support and could be headed up. But I tend to agree with you that it doesn't look particularly strong.
It doesn't until it does.
This is really toppy, you know what I mean? But these are like,
it's totally toppy. It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
And look at this. Obviously, we had this right to the top. Just to show this, we had a bunch of them through here, but that's a pretty, there's a bear div here, right?
Yeah.
Here to there, here to there, here to there, here to there. So here to there, the entire thing.
Every new peak. So
yeah. there was going to be a retracement. The question is now, is that it, or are we gonna see more? I would have loved to see a hidden bull div here, but if you minimize this to closes or a line chart, that hasn't really happened. So the bottom line is I have no freaking idea which way this is going to go, and I don't think anyone does. So I think it's an inflection point, as you kind of said. I'm hopeful on ALGO, but we'll see. That could be over by tomorrow, for all I know.
Yeah, you got to take your shots. I think you have like you say, you have your setup, you have your plan, and you just got to trade it. If there's any sort of argument for how TA works, I think this dominance chart is it, because you can't even trade this thing and it still respects these levels. It's kind of fascinating. So
it's really cool.
I've always got to.
And I wasn't a believer, by the way. I always laughed at the dominance chart for a very long time, until the last kind of year when I started looking at it and said, hey, I don't know why it works, but it works. So I'm going to keep, stick with it while it works.
Well, it's freaky. The Fibonacci is one tool that I'll forever be questioning, is it chicken and egg? Is it working because people are drawing it, or is it just because Fibonacci sequence is like an actual thing in the universe and it's just like flowers, honeycomb, everything's just organized around it? I don't know. I think that's more of a philosophical debate, and so it can distract from the purpose, which is to figure out how to use it to make money. But I don't know about this one. I think you're right. I think this move up was strong. I'm not seeing any volume to support it.
Yeah, I agree.
And the one thing is, and this is what I've learned this. I want to see if off the top of my head if I can think of a good example. But basically, once you get these market structure breakdowns, which is what we just had, you can actually often fill on this short RLZ of that move. And so this is something that I've been following in my trading quite a bit. And it works the other way too, where if you get sort of that bullish market structure breakout, and anyone who's been watching over the last little while has just watched me do this ad nauseum, and then you can draw that up and often get your fill to the long side on that kind of pullback into here off of that. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things I learned in the last year is just, instead of like buying this breakout or even buying the retest of that breakout and having my stop loss down in here, it's just fill down in here, and then you miss it sometimes. So, if I was going to short right here, my stop loss would have to be somewhere up in this area.
Of course.
And that's going to be probably
watch that wick.
Yeah, that's probably me getting washed out. Whereas actually a couple weeks ago now, it was right here. It was a sick fill, right? It was a sweep here. It was just this 702 tag, and then whomp. So me personally, I'm watching for this to rise up, always wanting it to go up, but for now. I'm actually just waiting for the reaction to these levels up here if we can get there.
Yeah.
But this node,
And yeah, talking about your strategy for filling the long, I agree with that. I mean, I like the retest more than the breakout, obviously, although, sometimes depending on my mood or my plan, I'll take both. But
yeah,
I think the strongest and the safest if you're swing trading and really taking a patient trade is to, put a few. First of all, I always buy and sell, in scale. I never really generally try to do it all at once, especially if it's a bigger trade. So like put bids throughout that area and do it small to the point where you can keep a very wide stop in case it breaks down. It goes back to what we talked about before, which is stop loss placement and position sizing are everything. Because just because a candle drops a little bit below it doesn't mean your idea is invalidated,
Yeah, and that's, I talk about that a lot often on here while I get really sort of chintzy with my entries. This is an old dot, I'd have to update this, but I get really chintzy with my entries because I want more size, but I don't want to, I'm not going to up my risk, right? So if I want to buy a lot of dots, actually, here's a good example. Right here, we had this little breakout here. Let me clean this up a little bit. It's looking messy. I guess I should put the replay on. So we had this breakout. I think it was on stream, right, when this was happening. And I just said, look, guys, we're going to follow this up. I mean, not we, but never financial advice. I'm like, I'm going to follow this up and wherever it tops, and then I'm going to get long from, that RLZ. And not as much, like you say, I want to get in here and I want to take 1% risk on my portfolio, but I want to get some size, right? If I get up in here and I can long from up here, but then my stop loss. And so for anyone who's familiar with these tools, like if my stop loss is okay, so say I want to get 4 to 1. Okay, so 12% on this position, right? So I can size it such that 12% loss here will reflect 1% in my portfolio.
Right.
But if I wait and really get chintzy and set my orders down at the 786, I'm only risking to that same sort of invalidation, 7.7%. And so now I can really, I can add more size while still maintaining that 1% portfolio risk. And, I think for anyone who doesn't have this is just sort of like I'm going to switch to screen zero. I'm going to find this thing. It just occurred to me that we're here, we're trying to teach, we're trying to help learn. So I'm going to share a tool. It's actually a buddy of mine. Shout out to Casper. He made this thing. It's just a web shop app, and it's just a very quick way to manage your risk. So it's a position size calculator. So let's say I want to go 850 long Bitcoin, and my stop loss is going to be 10,749. And my risk, I want to take 1% risk, and I am trading on a $2,000 portfolio. So I type that in, fairly quickly, a couple little digits, and it will tell me how much to buy at that level with that stop loss, so that if I get blown out, I'm only losing whatever 1% of that is, $20. So I will put this here. It's just a little web hook app thing. I'll put that in the chat for anyone who's curious, because I know when I was newer to trading and people were talking about all this risk, they're like, okay, so 7.79%, how do you make sure that that's only 1% of your portfolio? Well, there's a way to do it with a calculator, and I had a whole formula for a year, and now it's just this here. So, and you can add extra entries if you want to ladder your bids. So I hope you guys appreciate that. It's in the chat. Maybe even Scott, how do you manage risk on the fly? Do you have a formula?
The position size, position size calculator is basically the exact reason, but I'm not really ever on the fly. I don't know.
Well, like you have time, like you're trading the 4 hours in the dailies.
Yeah, but no, it's just like I only really take positions that like I've set an alarm for and have been waiting on. So, my plan is somewhat in place already. And if I'm trading like Uniswap or any of this other stuff, my entire, it's really easy because there's no stop losses. So I won't take a position larger than 1% of my portfolio, so that if it goes to zero.
Oh, you're trading to zero on that. Yeah. Then that actually makes life a lot easier. So that's not a very
hard calculation.
Yeah. No, I do appreciate that about Uniswap is that I do the same. I just play with small, and you're just assuming everything's a rug pull and work from there, and I'm probably safe. Early and often with the profits, right? If you can get a free position after a 2x and then just enjoy it. yeah, okay. So we had a request for DOT. We got a couple altcoins. We are, we're pulling up in an hour and a half. It's really up to you, your call on what your time's like. I'm having a great time, and I think
I have about 10 minutes, and then
10
my
minutes?
children will be my daughter will be really upset when she's sitting alone. And
Perfect.
doesn't get
Okay.
picked up.
Yeah. No, we don't. Make sure you make it to pick up time. Okay, sounds good. So we'll do a couple rapid fire alt charts. Is usually how Nick and I like to end the stream. And if you have anything else you want to share with us today, speak now, sir. As we
I'm good, man.
dive into some of these.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah, no, that's great. We've had a couple of good topics come up today. So somebody asked about DOT. Now I really like DOT. I've talked about it on here a lot. I want some. It has come back down into this RLZ, and actually we're putting in potential bullish structure here, and you guys know that's what I like to look for. And as you can see, the breakout potential would be right at this sort of previous resistance. So I'm going to say this. I would like to know if it breaks up here. It's 462. It's kind of getting rejected right now. Let's say greater than 462 with my trusty trading view alert. And if this triggers, I'm basically going to do what I just showed up here, which is track the breakout and set my fib. Because despite my higher time frame thoughts, I'm feeling a little inspired by Scott. I think there is a time where I still should be trading my setups. And if I'm wrong, and ETH BTC does just break out from here, or Bitcoin dominance does just break down, or Bitcoin shoots to 12K, like whatever, well, I'll have some DOT.
I'm in DOT. That's another one of the few that I'm in. So
yeah, and it's one that I'm almost like, I just want to get like a little longer term bag. I mean, how does it not hit 10 billion market cap someday? Like, I just don't see it. So
yeah,
it's a pretty
I just got it recently. So
yeah, I think it's a pretty safe hold. It's right at the breakout. So if it breaks out from here, I'll be tracking that breakout, watching that pivot, and hunting my bids down in here. And that's more so that I can, again, take some size, maybe even have it on Binance futures, so I'm not tying up a whole lot of margin, maybe tying up a lot less, and then maybe adding to a spot bag, because we've built up a really clear invalidation down here. So I'm comfortable with that as sort of, okay, I'm wrong, I'll get out. So, if we can break out of here, this is key though, because if we just get rejected here, I'm pleased in a way, because I'm like, cool, I can get it even cheaper. So I need to see that breakout first. We've got a few others. YFI, have you traded YFI yet? Do you want to pull that up?
I have never traded. I was trading YFI not long ago. I don't even have a YFI chart, but
okay.
YFI.
No, I can do YFI. Let's see.
Go ahead.
Which
I mean, I can pull one up.
ONT? No, of course you can. Yeah, I just don't want to put you on the spot if you don't. But YFI,
that's fine.
We've got ONT requests, link. You must have a link chart. Everybody's got a link chart.
Yeah, we all do. I was shorting it not too long ago, but I stopped doing that.
Yeah, it's had a
BTC
nice
or USD.
Your call. It's your chart. I think you're saying BTC is your main jam. I'm trading against
Link is one of the few that I trade against USD though, because I trade on FEMX and they have the pair. But yeah, I really do like Link.
Yeah, well, it's really up to you. I chart versus USD when Bitcoin is trending down on the daily. So right now that's what we've got. So I've been living in USD town for a bit, but otherwise I'm charting versus Bitcoin.
Yeah, I'll pull something out. I'll pull up the BTC one and just see what I got. I haven't updated it in a while, but we can do it live. Not a problem. 1 second.
Yeah, sounds good.
Takes about 3 seconds to chart.
That's the thing too. Sometimes you get these big moves, and
I just drew this while we were talking, and so I would say that this is clearly, here, let's make this big, bright and red. It's clearly an important-ish line right here, right? Are you looking at my screen? I don't even know.
No, I've got you.
So I started shorting it when it was here, but on the USD pair. I wrote it down. I had all these lines on here already, but now I would say that it looks like we're consolidating against resistance. So I would say that I would buy it, it's holding this, but I would buy it like, one of these, hopefully. But this clearly looks like some sort of pennant or flag or,
it's looking like a bull flag, top of the first leg up.
You could either do it that way or, that would be a pennant. That's ugly as shit, but my computer's tripping. I don't know. It could also be, doing
How closely do you watch volume when you're trading?
So a lot. So like, and that's why this looks like a bull flag to me, and that is a perfect bull flag. Although you would technically want up, down, not up, down, up. But obviously, if we're looking at this, we saw sort of, well, let's draw it to there because the volume still was rising pretty much here, and it rose through here. But now we have a decrease during consolidation, which means we should see a rise in volume upon the break of this flag, which would be in confluence with the break of this line and go up. So I would say that right now I actually feel pretty good about Link.
Yeah.
Based on this, because you want to see decreasing volume during consolidation. It's a sign volume tends to show up when you need it. But this was obviously a real uptrend here. Volume was down here and ended up here, and now we're seeing it decrease as we're forming this bull flag. So, the safest way to trade this would be, wow, that just didn't work very well, did it? Would be something like either here or here and up to maybe this level. That's my initial take on it.
So you're not calling it a quick little bounce in a downtrend. You're thinking maybe we get a nice little squeeze up into the, what is that?
Well, if we lose this, it's going to be pretty clear if we see a move down from this, right? And that would be rejection and head back down. But this is right. I've had this support here forever. This is really convincing, right?
Yeah.
That's a boing. That's a really nice, nice support, and it broke through here clearly with pretty decent volume. So to consolidate around this line, which this was resistance, wick through, close above, perfect support, consolidation above, and break. Well, maybe we see this sort of thing below it, and then on the way up, right? So this kind of looks like a V.
Yeah,
I think this could continue to fly.
And that's what I was asking about the volume too, because usually those will help give you a signal. Like, was this just a shitty little bounce to squeeze the shorts, or are we, was that it? Was the bull stepping into support level?
Well, it's fine. It's all relative, right? The volume's way down from the levels it was on these really, really bullish moves, but still relative. volume was dead here.
Yeah.
On this drop, right?
Well,
so this is not a convincing drop when volume's not rising. It's like lazy selling. So
yeah, it's more like the absence of buying rather than
exactly.
Sellers,
it's like, well, I'm bored and I don't feel like holding it anymore, so I'll sell some.
Which is the bulls they were clearly in a handful of them waiting at that level, and as soon as that level hit, it's back to the FOMO grind. So yeah, I like it. Now, because of your timeline, and you do have to wrap up. I don't want your kid waiting at school getting held up. Let's do a quick giveaway over here on Twitter. We do have a 1-year subscription. I don't want to forget that today. So we're here on Twitter. I'm going to just mess around with this. We'll just have to trust that you're not watching, and you just say stop, and I'll stop playing with it, and we'll see where we land.
Stop. If it's me that's supposed to say stop, I say stop.
We have
winner, chicken dinner. Oh, it's right below my wife. She didn't win.
Emmy just missed it. So, T3X, Thunder 3X, alive and kicking. I will reach out to you through the Real Hero Labs account. Don't let anyone else DM you with fake crap. But we are going to connect you with Scott, and we'll hook you up with a 1-year subscription to his Wolf's Den newsletter.
Oh, that's sad. My wife's not going to get to read it for another while.
She doesn't get to see it. No, I can't believe she hasn't already paid for her subscription. What the hell, Emmy?
Whatever, she gets a discount.
So I'm going to screen grab that so I don't forget as we wrap here. So at Thunder3X, I will contact you on Twitter.
That's an awesome name, actually.
Yeah, I like that. So, and we'll just flip back to screens here. So, yeah, I really appreciate you coming on today. And
thank you.
Sounds like you've been looking forward to it for a while. So that's really good for me, because my next question is,
I told you,
can we get you back? Yeah, we got a hero. We got a hero in the house. So I'll be sure to reach out and bug you and Emmy in the next couple of months.
Anytime.
And maybe next time we can get a little just deeper into the charts. I only just got to kind of get the surface of your TA there. But I'm sitting over here. I got my notepad. I'm learning from you at the same time, so I appreciate it.
I learned a lot too, man. You have a very unique perspective and a lot of things I wouldn't have considered. I love that Gann chart. That was amazing. How that lines up with the election is really pretty
it's sick,
compelling.
Right?
That's going to be fun. I'm going to definitely be pinging you say, because I'm not going to redraw that thing. Let's be honest. That's a
Yeah,
beast. So I'm going to have to get you to tell me if it hit. I'm just going to keep 8,100 in my mind for the election.
Well, we'll keep an eye on it. I mean, I've got alerts set, and we'll be, I'll be tweeting it out. It's not the most popular chart because it's bearish, but it just is what it is,
Is 8,100 bearish?
No. Well, it is for people on Twitter, apparently.
No,
it's just
fine.
12 tomorrow or bust.
Call me in 10 years and see how much my Bitcoin's worth, man. Come on.
Yeah.
8,100, I'll be just buying.
Well, that's why right now I'm actually, more than ever kind of hoping we do get a little turnaround because I want to buy more. I'm finally prepared for a pivot. I'm in Tether. Yeah. I'm sitting there, so... but I've got a bunch of pre-sales in the works too, so I really just hope we moon and fucking.
Yeah,
I'm happy to get back in at 11.5 or whatever it is. So we'll
up is fine. I never tether up, so it's easy for me.
That's good.
I take profit, but if I take profit, it comes out of the market completely. So, but yeah, I mean, I trade to Bitcoin. I believe that we're going to see 40, 50, 100. Might take many, many years, but I'm not going anywhere, so it doesn't matter.
We'll be here, yeah. And that's the one thing with, Hxro Labs as well, guys. We are going to be here. And that's a quick segment as we exit. We're going to be here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So you guys hit us up on YouTube if you'd like to see more of this. You can hit the sub, hit the like, and hit the notifications so when we go live, you get notified. Thank you so much, Scott Melker, the Wolf of All Streets, coming on today.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate it. That was a lot of fun. Do it again.
No, really enjoyed it. And we will be on actually with Wendy next Monday. She's going to be our follow-up guest.
Nice.
So
awesome.
That's going to be great. And other than that, I would just say that whatever you guys do, let me get my little outro queued up here. In the markets, always play from a position of strength.